Recently I made the decision to leave my beloved GNOME desktop and switch over to KDE Plasma. And honestly, it wasn't an easy choice. I have tried Plasma a couple of times over the years, and yet I always came back to GNOME because of its unique workflow, design language and ecosystem, which allows me to seamlessly connect to my online accounts and network devices. So why did I give it up? Well, stick around if you want to find that out. This video was made possible by channel members of our community. If you want to participate in selecting new video topics, see what's going on behind the scenes and gain access to various tips and tricks, then please make sure to check out the join button or the link in the video description down below. KDE Plasma and I have always had some, friction points. Story time. Out of the box, it comes with a traditional taskbar, a start menu, desktop icons and some other smaller day-to-day improvements that GNOME doesn't come with or at least aren't configured by default. I've been using Windows since I was like 6 years old. Windows 98, 2000, XP, a tiny bit of Vista, 7, 8, 8.1, 10 and finally 11. I have seen almost all of them. So given my experience, KDE Plasma would have seemed like an ideal candidate for me, especially since I kind of strive for being more on the bleeding edge side of things in terms of design. And personally, I just find it to be much more pleasant looking than Cinnamon. And honestly, coming from Windows, it initially was. What many don't know is that I didn't really like GNOME back in its version 3 era. I was professionally trained on it during my server administration course, and we used it because it was a bit easier than to go full command line, without access to external help. But I actually started out my Linux journey on KDE Plasma. An old laptop of mine didn't support Windows 11. At this point I thought it would be pretty funny to just install Linux, recreate the Windows 11 design and see how long it takes for someone to notice. And I had a great time on KDE Plasma, not gonna lie. As a sort of Windows replacement, back then it worked surprisingly well. But then I discovered GNOME 40 and its following releases, and especially the changes from using vertical workspaces to horizontal ones, the overall UI, smoothness and optimizations, and then of course all the integrations it comes with made me fall in love with it. I said it before, but when it comes to my preferences, then GNOME basically nailed it for me. And despite trying out KDE Plasma a couple of times over the past few years, that's why I sticked with GNOME. So what changed? Did something happen? Well, frankly, I got bored. But there is also one more issue that has been getting on my nerves recently. GNOME was just working too well. Kind of controversial, I know, but I love PCs and I just enjoy working with them. However, with GNOME there were no real challenges anymore. It just worked. I customized my preferences, installed 1 or 2 extensions to make it look a bit more pleasing and functional, connected my accounts, installed my applications, and then it just worked. And for someone that wants exactly that, then it's really great. But it's also not quite me. I need to see some changes, and GNOME is currently a bit more on the making the experience more stable track. So is Plasma, but the overall feature pace is still stronger. So yeah, I switched because I just got bored, but as I mentioned earlier, not only because of that. The truth on why I switched was gaming. And not because gaming on Plasma is better than on GNOME, but because gaming is better on it with my dedicated NVIDIA GPU. Let me explain. I exclusively use a gaming laptop from Tuxedo at the moment, and a couple of months ago I started to notice something weird. I used to have 2 monitors, one with 144p and one with 1080p, both on 144Hz, that I connected via my USB-C docking station, so basically to the internal AMD GPU. Then I started to mess around with a Windows dual booting setup on an external SSD, and I discovered something weird. On Windows, I was getting higher FPS when I connected the monitors directly to the hardware DGPU ports on my laptop, while on Linux, I was getting higher FPS when I connected them to the internal GPU. Okay, weird, but you know, hybrid graphics on Linux have always been a bit funky, so I just kept using the USB-C port on my docking station. But once I switched to 2 144p 180Hz monitors, connecting them with USB-C no longer became an option, because the supported bandwidth to properly run 2 displays with these specs can only go so far. So I was basically forced to start connecting the monitors to the NVIDIA GPU directly. But for some reason, GNOME seems to have certain issues with that. It's still usable, don't get me wrong, but there seems to be something wrong with scanning the images out, and I started to understand some of the problems that NVIDIA users reported to have. Flickering on one monitor, sometimes with some weird mirror image from the first display, some frame drops when animations play on the desktop, and just the fact that I can't really properly show smooth gameplay and desktop animations because OBS does not pick up every frame with Pipewire made it really challenging to record stuff. I also ran a couple of benchmark tests, comparing KDE Plasma to GNOME, and in Counter-Strike 2 I got 30 FPS more on average than on GNOME, and since I started to game more recently, that became a huge factor for me. But it also kind of reminded me about this Windows is better on the GPU thing. It wasn't Windows that was faster, but there was something wrong with GNOME that prevented the NVIDIA GPU to run its fastest. Oh, probably this. What I basically want to say is that right now on hybrid setups, so PCs or laptops that have both an internal and external GPU, you're losing out on performance on GNOME. This is not really an issue with purely external graphics, and it explains on why I didn't have this issue back when I was still on my GTX 1080. This seems to be a hybrid graphics problem, and now that I have a device that uses that, I'm affected as well. On KDE Plasma, I now get smoother gameplay, overall higher FPS, my scan-out problems with stuttery OBS recordings on my external screens is gone, and I get to mess with my desktop again, since Plasma is just not GNOME in terms of integrations. There are just no sophisticated online accounts that synchronize everything across applications. Depending on the distro, like Fedora for example, you even have to install additional dependencies for some programs to get a somewhat working experience. I'm missing out on my beloved workspace workflow, because Plasma does not allow me to use my scroll wheel to switch between desktops, and there is no easy fix for that. I also need to set up network shares manually, since by default, KDE Plasma does not provide an actual path for applications that need one. And KIO Fuse is not really a substitute because of fundamental design choices. Basically, for my work, KDE Plasma is not better than GNOME. However, since gaming is that much better, and I also got bored with my desktop, it's just more interesting to me currently. Maybe I switch back to GNOME once the NVIDIA issues have been resolved. Maybe I won't and get used to a new workflow. All I can say is that I'm excited. Linux gives me the choice to try out new things. I didn't even reinstall Tuxedo OS or Fedora for this. I just switched desktop environments, did some cleanup, and it worked perfectly. But what I want to hear now is, what do you use? Do you also have a laptop with an external GPU, and do you also suffer from disk performance issues? Maybe I just showed you how to fix them. Please let us know in the comment section down below. Before I end this video, I quickly wanted to mention that if you want to support the channel and make even better videos, then please feel free to check out our membership program, as well as our online shop, whereas each sale helps to support various open source projects. If you've liked this video, then please make sure to show it with a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future Linux videos just like this one. I hope you had a blast watching and that I'll see you very soon. But in the meantime, all that's left to say now is good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. I'll see you around.